Michella Chester here with NCAA Digital. I'm joined by Kendall Rogers and Fitt of D1 Baseball. Guys, I wanted to bring you back in now that we're a little ways into the season and kind of do a mid-season update and talk about the rest of the way. We've had a lot of changes since we've last talked, so let's just go through it all. And I want to start with Tennessee because obviously they didn't burst onto the scene. They were at the College World Series last year, but I don't think anyone expected them to be this dominant. So let's talk about that team, their freshman pitching duo, and just what you see in them.
Yeah, the thing that jumps out, I think, about Tennessee, Michela, is the pitching more than anything else, because that was the big question mark for this team heading into the season. You lose your ace, Cheese Dallas. You didn't even have Blade Tidwell, your expected ace for most of the season. And you've got two true freshmen in Drew Beam and Chase Burns stepping into the weekend rotation, along with a transfer sophomore from the Sun Belt and Chase Dollander. And there's a lot of uncertainty. We knew those guys all had talent, but you just don't see freshmen thrive this way in the SEC very often. In a weekend rotation. It's really special. And of course, they lost 3/4 of their infield and their catcher, and they've just plugged in other pieces and haven't skipped a beat. It's really been an incredible season they've put together so far.
And then I also want to talk about the top five. It's totally rearranged for the beginning of the season. You've got Oregon State, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and Miami. I mean, who would have thought? Kendall, can you talk about these teams kind of making a big jump now from the start of the season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Oregon State, I've been really impressed with the job that Mitch Canham's done there this year, because if you look at Oregon State, they haven't had Will Fritch and Jacob Finnings, two of their projected weekend starters for much of the season. Finnings is back. I think he threw an inning and 2/3 last week. But, Cooper Jerpy's had an incredible campaign. I think he has 80 strikeouts and just over 50 innings of work. He's been a big key for them. But, Oregon State has just really done a nice job on the mound. They've done a nice job offensively with Jacob Melton and company kind of leading the way. And so I've been really impressed with Oregon State. I think Arkansas, for me, they're in the top five. And I think Arkansas is one of those teams that, they're a long way away from playing their best baseball. Obviously, on the mound, Jackson Wiggins has taken a step forward. Hagen Smith's a guy that we were all really high on after the fall. He's met expectations. Connor Nolan has stepped up on the front end of the rotation. But this offense is still a unit that has huge upside, really, and just hasn't really, produced to the level that we kind of expected. So Arkansas is really scared for me. I think Oklahoma State is a club that's kind of coming into its own now. They go on the road, take a series in West Virginia over the weekend. Keep an eye on Justin Campbell. He continues to pitch at a very high level. And also keep an eye on Bryce Osmond. This is a guy that we've kind of been waiting on to take that step forward and be that front line type of pitcher. He's starting to establish consistency.
And then the thing that really stands out to me is I feel like so many teams kind of fell out of the top 10 picture or the top 25 entirely. You think of Texas starting off as number 1. Now they're out of the top 10. Vandy, Florida, not even in the top 25 at all. Aaron, what is the reason behind this? Do you have an explanation?
Yeah, I think part of it is, both those teams, Texas and Vanderbilt and Florida, they both had a lot of, youth on the mound. That's the big thing. And we kind of figured, especially in Florida's case, after Hunter Barco, it was going to take some time for those young guys to kind of mature as the season went along. We thought they would be an up and down team in the first half and be more dangerous later. I thought it was encouraging, to see Brandon Neely pitch very well this past weekend against Vanderbilt. That's one of those true freshmen that they've been waiting on. He'll be a key, and they've got some other guys like that they just need more out of going forward. In Vanderbilt's case, they had even less certainty on the mound heading into the year because they didn't have a Hunter Barco to anchor it. They had a lot of unproven guys, and Chris McIlvain has shown flashes of excellence. And then they've got some freshmen. Carter Holton, I think, is a supreme talent. Again, has shown big time flashes, but they need a little bit more consistency. Bryce Cunningham has come on for them a little bit. So I feel like both these teams are going to make runs, and they've already had okay years. Both of them have things that they can hang their hats on. Florida's really got some quality series wins, and Vanderbilt just took a series from Florida this past weekend. So these are teams that both have upside, but they just need a little more experience and more consistency on the mound. And I think that they're getting those innings under their belts, and I would look for both of them to make a run.
Well, we were going to mention Texas, but how about Ole Miss and Mississippi State? I mean, these are two teams that we thought would be national championship contenders coming into the year. And these are two teams that are going to play an important series, and the loser of that series may not even make the postseason. So it's been a weird year for those two teams, especially really the Magnolia State with those two teams, plus Southern Miss taking a big step forward. But when you look at Texas real quick, I think the biggest thing for UT is the fact that they lost Tanner Wood in the weekend rotation. He was basically a Friday guy starting on Sundays. And if you look at the back end of the bullpen, Aaron Nixon, who's a freshman All-American, just hasn't been the same guy since about the, I don't know, fourth or fifth week of the season. He's had some command issues. He's had issues kind of unraveling at times. So I think the biggest thing for Texas down the stretch is I feel pretty good about the offense with Murphy Staley and Ivan Melendez and company. But I think the biggest thing for Texas down the stretch, and not to throw this on one guy, but they really need Aaron Nixon to kind of be that closer that he was for them last year.
Okay, so what would you guys say are some of the biggest surprises from this year? What really threw you off guard with where we're at right now?
I think Kendall hit on a couple of the big ones, or the state of college baseball in the state of Mississippi. The defending national champions being 6-9 in the league. Ole Miss, preseason top 10 team, also being 5-10 in the league. That to me is really jarring, and we'll see if those teams can recover from that. But there have been some positive surprises too. Texas State and Georgia Southern, I think, in the Sun Belt, both teams that have had great years. I think Georgia Southern has got a good enough RPI that they could make a run at hosting a regional. And Texas State, won a series at Arizona, and they've been kind of hanging around in the top 25 most of this season. That's been a positive surprise. And I think Gonzaga, a team that we liked, but a team that has been really consistent all year long, with a huge highlight weekend, a series win at Oklahoma State, a sweep, in fact, on the road. That was an eye-opener. So they're sitting there at number 12 in the country, a team that we thought was the favorite in the West Coast Conference, but right now they got a chance to host a regional. So I think that's another big story.
I think the biggest thing for me is just the ACC. The ACC this year I think is deeper than the SEC. I think if you look top to bottom in that league, you look at the bottom of that league, you got teams who right now aren't even in the mix for a postseason berth, like Duke and Clemson, who have the ability to go on a run and get in the NCAA tournament. That gives you an idea of just how deep that conference is. In the WCC as well. I mean, the WCC right now is sitting at 5th in conference RPI. Obviously, it's propped up a little bit from Gonzaga, but San Diego's had a nice year. Loyola Marymount started to figure things out a little bit. And then you got some teams in the middle of those standings, with RPIs and kind of that 50 to 60 range. So the WCC is a storyline, and also I actually really like the top of the pack right now. I mean, I think Stanford's a club that's starting to figure things out. I saw them earlier in the year when they beat Arkansas. They looked really good, kind of took a step down, and now they're kind of back to what we thought they'd be coming into the year. I think UCLA, has overcome some pretty serious injuries on the mound this year. They've done a really nice job, and I think you look at Oregon and Oregon State. Those two teams will play here in a couple of weeks. Mark Wasikowski, guy's working his magic yet again. I mean, they don't have a lot on the mound right now with Adam Mayer out for the season. But tell you what, those guys can really hit with Drew Calley and company. Drew Calley, I think, is coming back here in like the next week or two with a hamate bone injury. So just the Pac-12 in general is pretty intriguing to me.
All right, and last but not least, I'll leave you guys with this one. Do you have any top players that are just really standing out in your minds or your opinion since we first talked at the beginning of the season?
Can I just butt in here and just talk about Sonny DiChiara before Aaron does?
Okay, go for it.
We'll just talk about Sonny. So, one of the things that Aaron touched on which was perfect, was the transfer market. We've seen guys go down like Josh Hatcher, who's at Mississippi State. I think he's hitting .416 at Kennesaw State. So it works both ways. But look at Sonny D. He goes from Sanford, where he had a lot of power, hit around 275 at Sanford last year with a lot of power. He's got, not only has he gone to Auburn and had success in the SEC, but you're talking about a guy that's hitting around .460 in the Southeastern Conference with premium power. This guy, he might be 6'2", 270, but he is a pure hitter. He's a powerful hitter, and he as much as anybody, has a case for National Player of the Year.
I think that's spot on. He's one of the most fun players in college baseball also, with a great walk-up song if you're ever in an Auburn game. But, I think the other thing that jumps out to me are some of these guys that are making big leaps as sophomores, that freshman to sophomore year jump. And I'm looking in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You've got two of these guys. Jake Geloff at UVA has had a monster first half, cooled off a little bit, but I mean, you look up, he's still 4th in the country in OPS. And right behind him, number 5 in the country in OPS is a guy named Jack Hurley at Virginia Tech. Those are two real breakout stars this year that have caught my attention. And I'm going to give you a sleeper name on the mound. Thomas Harrington at Campbell has had an incredible season. He's got 86 strikeouts, just 11 walks in 59 innings with a 1.37 ERA. And it's real stuff. It's 4 pitches for strikes. I think he's pitched himself into the middle of the first round of the draft, and he leads a Campbell rotation that I think is really dangerous. That team has gotten hot, and I think that they've got a chance to win a regional if they can get back in there.
All right. I can't believe we agree on a player of the year take. But we'll check in a few weeks. But guys, thanks so much for breaking it down.